In this video, let's compare two of the hottest thinking models from Chinese research labs. So you have Kimi K2 thinking, which got released recently. So this is an open source thinking agent model, basically the thinking version of Kimi K2, which itself was a very good model. What they are saying is that this achieves SOTA on humanities last exam and BrowseComp benchmarks. It can execute up to 200 to 300 sequential tool calls without human interference. It is released as open weights with a permissible license. Okay. It excels in reasoning, agentic search, and coding. It has a 256K context window. It is built as a thinking agent. So K2 thinking marks Kimi's latest efforts in test time scaling both thinking tokens and tool calling turns. So this is now available in kimi.com where you can chat. Okay. Similarly, Alibaba Qwen had released Qwen 3 Max thinking preview. Okay. So this Qwen 3 Max was also a great model, right? What they're saying is that it is still in training, and even at this stage, when augmented with tool use and scaled test time compute, it achieves 100% on challenging reasoning benchmarks like AIME 2025 and HMMT benchmarks. So this is also available on QuenChat. So we can try both these models, and then we can come back to some of the specifics about the models like parameters, price, and other things. Okay. So what I did over here was I wanted to compare Kimi's performance with Qwen's performance on same prompts. Okay. So this is one of the first prompts which I gave, which is where I said I am a surgeon and I and my son were traveling in a car. We met with an accident. I took my son to the hospital. I said that I will not do the surgery. That's it. Okay. So the answer is quite simple over here because I'm a relative. I don't want to do surgery. Right. Now, what Kimi K2 does is that it says that the user has represented a classical ethical dilemma trick question scenario. Let me analyze it carefully. I am a surgeon and my son is traveling. The key question implies why wouldn't the surgeon operate on his own son? This is a classic riddle. The answer is the surgeon is a woman. It just makes up an assumption over here and it thinks that I am wrongly asking a riddle and it gives this answer. The surgeon is the boy's mother. This is a classic riddle that challenges the common assumption that a surgeon must be male. Actually, this was not the answer which I was expected over here, but this is from training, right? This is what happens over here. Now, the same question I actually asked Qwen over here, right? Qwen 3 Max with thinking enabled. So, this is the Qwen 3 Max thinking preview. In Kimi, once you go over here, you have this thinking button which is enabled, right? And you can ask your questions. So I asked the same question over here. I am a surgeon and I and my son are traveling in a car where we met with an accident. I took my son to the hospital. I said that I will not do the surgery. Okay. So we are given a scenario. It has this huge 81K tokens budget. It goes about and then, it also thinks that this is part of the puzzle, right? Male is the trap or something. It does all this thinking, but it gave a very good response over here. So based on the scenario, this appears to be a variation of a classic riddle. Here's a clear explanation. You stated that I am a surgeon. The key detail is you are the parent of the child and you refuse to perform the surgery on your own son. So, in medical ethics, surgeons typically avoid operating on immediate family members due to emotional impairment, professional guidelines. However, this scenario mirrors a well known riddle where the punchline reveals that the surgeon is the mother of the child. In your case, since you are a parent and you survived the accident, you, the surgeon, are his mother. So here also there is this issue, right? I am not doing this as a riddle over here. Okay. So why this matters? If it was a real life situation, your refusal to operate would be ethically appropriate. I find this response slightly better than the previous one. The classic riddle is there to intent highlight on gender biases. Okay. Practical steps: ensure your own injuries are assessed, inform the medical team, advocate for your son. This is a much better response than what Kimi has given over here, saying that the surgeon is boy's mother. This is a classic riddle. Even though here also it says that if this is referencing classic riddle, there is a good difference between this and here, assuming that I'm writing this classic riddle in a wrong way and I'm asking something over here. Okay. So this was the first question which I asked over here. The next is again a very simple thinking question. It says 4 people need to cross a bridge late night. They have a single torch. A can cross the bridge in 5 minutes, B can cross in 4, C can cross in 6, D can cross in 10 minutes. What is the minimum time required for all of them to cross the bridge? Over here, Kimi does a lot of calculations, right? Let me be extremely methodical. I will make 2 people cross because it thinks it's a puzzle, right? And it starts, creating strategies. Even Qwen does the same thing. It also starts creating strategies, right? About only 2 people can. Nowhere I have mentioned that only 2 people can cross the bridge. I have just said that there are 4 people. They have a torch, and all 4 need to cross. So I have not said anything about that. It's a narrow bridge, old bridge, nothing. Okay. Here it says minimum total time is equal to 29 minutes, which is wrong. If 4 of them can cross the bridge at the same time, the slowest person is taking 10 minutes. Obviously, everybody is going to take 10 minutes and all 4 can cross the bridge. The minimum time required for all 4 of them is actually 10 minutes, right? All 4 them. I have not put any additional constraints. But the way these models are trained, they start putting, they think it's a typical puzzle. The solution is to first send 2. Both Kimi as well as Qwen 3 Max thinking has made a mess out of this, and both are given wrong answers. Okay. So both of them over here think that this is a puzzle and only 2 people can go together. I have not mentioned any constraints over here. The LLMs are just assuming things over here. So these were 2 reasoning things which I tried. Then the next one is like, I wanted to try out this coding problem. So here what I'm asking is that I'm asking a very simple thing. Give me HTML code for visualization of gradient descent. So it generated this HTML code. So this is how it looks like, the preview. Right, and here you have options to, let me reset. I can play around with the learning rate, right? If I have a larger learning rate, then if you see over here, what happens is that it will take bigger steps, right? And if I have a very smaller learning rate, then let me pause it, let me reset it, and let me start. It will be very slow, very small steps it will take before, the gradient descent kind of converges to a global minimum, right? So with Qwen, I asked the same question over here, and the preview kind of failed over here. But when I downloaded the code, it gave me this nice visualization for this function. So gradient descent is an optimization algorithm that minimizes the function by iteratively moving in the direction of the steepest descent. The learning rate controls the step size. Too large a learning rate may cause divergence. Too small may result in slow convergence. So if I put a large learning rate over here and I start, you can see that it will jump big steps over here. Right, I can play around with this animation speed as well. I can start. So I can start this starting value as something. Let me reset. Let me start. See over here if I have a large learning rate. So it is actually doing a good job. Let me reset. Let me start. So this is smaller steps, right? In the direction of the steepest descent. So both of them have done good over here for the coding thing which I tried. Okay, this is the only coding thing which I tried over here. So what they are claiming is both models are doing well on coding benchmarks and other things. So you can try it out. Then this was one scenario where they said that, in general things also, Kimi does very well for writing. So for example, find a quirky underreported local event in Singapore from October 2025 and write a 300-word cultural observation about it in the style of New Yorker's talk of the town. Okay, so it does searching, then it does evaluation. So here I've enabled search as well. I tried the same thing with Qwen. Okay, so this is how Qwen has written it. In the shadow of Singapore's gleaming Marina Bay skyline, where the Formula One roar dominates, October's kind of quieter revolution unfolds in the city's state's queer underground. It talks about some Singapore's LGBTQ plus scene. Some talks about some biggest lesbian party of 2025 of Singapore. That's what it says over here, right? As a quirky, it has written this. Now this is subjective. So basically, you need to see which writes better. Okay, what they're saying is that Kimi K2 does a good job of creative writing as well. So they have this particular blog of theirs. Let me go there. If it is, this is the blog of Kimi K2 thinking. So you can go here and check about all the benchmarks and other things. How this does well than even GPT-5 or Anthropic Sonnet. on various benchmarks. So this is the SW verified benchmark here. It crosses 71.3. One thing is I've not seen any comparisons with Gemini 2.5 Pro over here. I'm not sure why is that, but they talk about the various agentic coding, agentic search and browsing and other things over here, general capabilities. So this is where that cultural review thing example which I got, and even the the gradient descent also. I just this was an example which they showed, so I thought, okay, let me try it out, right? So they give all the full evaluations and other things over here. Now, if you look at the post from artificial analysis on Kimi K2 thinking, what they're saying is that this is a reasoning variant of Kimi K2 that achieves the number one in Tau2 bench telecom agentic benchmark, and it is potentially the new leading open weights model. That's what they're saying. They have not done a full evaluation of this thing, but on the agentic task, this achieves 93%. Okay, in this Tau2 bench telecom bench agentic tool use benchmark, where the model acts as a customer service agent. Okay. So tool use in long horizon agentic context was a strength of Kimi K2 instruct, and it appears that this new thinking variant makes substantial gains. And this model has 1 trillion parameters, but it is int4 instead of FP8. So Moonshot's prior Kimi K2 instruct uses FP8 precision. This model has been released in int4 precision. So Moonshot used quantization aware training in the post-training phase to achieve this. The impact of this is this model is 594 GB parameters, even though it is 594 GB. That's the memory space required for this particular model, even though it is 1 trillion parameters. Okay, compared to just over 1 trillion 1 terabyte for K2 instruct. So this is almost half of K2 instruct, which translates to efficiency gains for inference and training. That is what they are saying over here. Okay, now if you look at Qwen, what artificial analysis says is that this particular model, it's early preview, right? The non-thinking model itself was better than the previous version of Kimi K2. Okay, the non-thinking model was intelligence increased by 6 points to 55 in there. This thing, so they are actually still evaluating Kimi K2 thinking on where it will fall in this particular artificial intelligence analysis benchmark. The Qwen 3 Max non-thinking itself was much better than Kimi K2. Okay, over here, 5 points more than Kimi K2. So once this model is released and when they evaluate it, I want to see where it falls in this particular artificial intelligence index. All right. This model is also having a 256K token context. The pricing is like $1.2 per 1 million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. Whereas the pricing for Kimi K2 is much lesser over here. It is $2.50 per 1 million output tokens and $0.15 for or $0.6 for 60 cents for input token. So this is much more cheaper than your Qwen 3 Max preview or Qwen 3 Max thinking model, right? Or the Qwen 3 Max non-reasoning also. This model is much more cheaper, right? Now it's up to you to actually see which model is good for you, whether Kimi K2 thinking is good or Qwen 3 Max preview is good for your tasks. Okay. So this Kimi K2 is a mixture of experts featuring 1 trillion parameters and 32 billion activated parameters. Context length is 256K. It's the same context length for your Qwen 3 Max as well. Okay, it has the same context length of 256K. That is what I understood over here. But the pricing is more. Okay, for Qwen 3 Max preview for thinking version as well as non-thinking, the pricing is more when compared to Kimi. Kimi is a much more cheaper model. So for your use cases, you just need to evaluate which is good for you and make use of that particular model. This model is available on Hugging Face, and if you have the kind of infrastructure, you can deploy Kimi K2 instruct locally as well. Right? Kimi K2 thinking you can deploy locally, but yeah, you need to have the infrastructure to support it. This has a modified MIT license, but I believe it can be used for commercial purposes, even though I'm not a license expert, so please verify it. So this was a short video on Kimi K2 thinking versus Qwen 3 Max thinking preview. Hope this video is useful. See you in another video.